it was Dimitri's idea. At first I wasn't sure about it, but he can be very persuasive when he wants to be.
The plan was to call and say that I was from my father's lawyer's office and that he wanted to arrange a meeting with his estranged son. That he wanted it to be very low-key and casual, so it would take place in a cafe, the one that Dimitri and I go to.
I also said that this was a sensitive issue with certain parties, and he should tell no one about it, and if he should call my father's residence or the law office, all knowledge of the secret meeting would be denied and the meeting itself would be canceled. Dimitri said that way we could get to the cafe early, and if for any reason we didn't want to go through with the meeting, we could chicken out without our half-brother really knowing anything.
I was also so curious just to see him. You know? I mean, he seems so mysterious. And if I could just get a look at him without him knowing.
No, we really didn't know what to expect, so anything would have been a surprise. But I really didn't expect to like him. It was all so weird.
Well, Dimitri and I got to the cafe 45 minutes early. That's not true, actually. I got there 45 minutes early.
Dimitri showed up half an hour later. He looked awful. He was tired, unshaven.
At this cafe, you order at the counter, you give them your name, and they bring your order to the table. So we thought that we would just wait until they called Sam's name. That was the name that was written on the pad. Then we would know who he was.
Well, we waited and watched everybody fit the description, or what we imagined him to look like. I actually imagined him to look like my dad. I guess he does a little bit.
We were there a long time and we actually thought he wasn't going to show.
We decided to leave when this guy, who had been there the whole time, walked up, smiled, and asked if he could sit down. He'd been watching us.
He'd been watching you?
Yeah, he was watching us.
He wasn't at all what I had expected. He was polite.
Soft-spoken, kind-looking, beautiful. Not at all like my father on the outside.
Except for the eyes. Yes, he had my father's eyes.
Sonny and I were a bit nervous, but he put us at ease right away. He laughed and he said that he knew that there was something phony about the phone call. He'd already been meeting Dad pretty regularly, and my father had told him about us and that we were planning to get together when we made our prank phone call.
He said he knew it was Dimitri and I, but he didn't want to spoil our little plan. It was a bit awkward at first. I think Sam could tell.
He put us right at ease. He smiled and we just kind of made small talk for a little bit. And then he got us talking about ourselves and telling funny stories about our father.
That's when I first noticed it.
It was very strange. We've been talking for about 45 minutes. I was surprised at how well we were all getting along. We were all having a great time. I had just told a story about when Sonia and I were growing up, and we were all laughing together when I noticed Sam had this strange look on his face. He'd stopped laughing.
He had just taken a drink of coffee when Dimitri had told a joke, and we all started to laugh. And then Sam's eyes became fixed, and it looked like he was in pain, but he wasn't moving. All of his muscles were tensed.
His hands started to shake, but as if he couldn't move. He clenched his teeth, and coffee streamed out of his mouth and down his chin. Sonia screamed, and Sam lost his balance and fell over his chair.
I didn't know what to do. Everyone in the cafe stopped and turned to us. I had no idea what was happening. My head started to spin.
And Sam was lying on the floor. He had knocked the table over and it had fallen on top of him.
He hit his head and he was bleeding from a small cut. The waitress ran up and said, is he choking? And I remember I was trying to open up his mouth, but it was clenched closed, and he was staring up at me the whole time,
I thought he was dying.
We didn't know what to do. There was milk and coffee all over the floor, and Sam was just shaking and making this horrible sound.
Foam started to come from his lips. Thank God for that woman.
She had been sitting at the next table a few feet away. What a stroke of luck. She rushed up to Sam as soon as he fell.
How did she help you?
I don't know. She took care of him. She picked his head up and told us that, he was having a seizure. We had no idea. We'd never seen a seizure before.
She said she was a nurse and told the waitress to call an ambulance. She said that Sam was having an epileptic seizure.
She had seen these before and tried to calm him down. She told us that he'd be all right, but he needed to get to the hospital right away.
It was only a few minutes before the paramedics got there. They took him out on a stretcher. Dimitri wanted to ride with them in the ambulance, but they told him that he couldn't. They told us that they were taking him to St. Luke's and that we could meet him there.
Dimitri said he'd go right away, but told me that I should go and tell my father what had happened. That he should know as soon as possible.